Going by the release of Tinubu's academic records by Chicago State University to Atiku, it reaffirms what has been known in the public domain since last year, and some documents they released raise more questions than answers. Before we analyze them, let's address what is going on right now. Many Nigerian news channels and online newspapers are pushing a narrative that Chicago State University authenticated Tinubu's certificate. This is despite the fact that they published this news after Atiku's lawyers released these documents to the public. So if they didn't have a motive, they could have simply verified what was released before using the word authenticate. For the record, all the certificate samples released by Chicago State University, none matches the certificate Tinubu submitted to INEC 100%. So one wonders why they use the word authenticate. Even before the release of these records, Chicago State University attorney said in court that they do not know where Tinubu got the certificate. For clarity, let's replay the audio so that you can hear it from the horse's mouth.
Diploma that President Tinubu submitted into evidence in Nigeria or offered to the, whatever that election agency there is. My client is that authentic? My client's going to say, we don't know.
So Tinubu's certificate was never authenticated by Chicago State University. It's a pity that they are pushing this misleading narrative. If Tinubu knew that Chicago State University will authenticate his certificate, he wouldn't have asked to join the court hearing and even go to the extent of appealing the judgment to a higher court. Also, before these documents were released, he tried to appeal the judgment to other courts, but it was rejected because of what Nancy Maldonado, the honorable judge, said in her judgment, that any appeal for a stay of execution will be denied. So all the courts he approached immediately saw this line and they all rejected his appeal. If Tinubu expected to be vindicated by the release of the records, he simply wouldn't have fought to stop the release. This is common sense. After all, he told the court that it will cause him irreparable harm if the documents are released. He knew right from time that the certificate he's parading didn't come from CSU. That's the reason for all the running around trying to block the release. Also, early in the hearing, his lawyer accused CSU of making errors in the certificate they issued him. Isn't that an acceptance that the certificate is not the same as the original? If there's an error, it means one is correct and the other is incorrect. When there are many errors, it becomes fake. It's as simple as that. Because it is impossible to make such errors when someone that signed the certificate at the time hasn't even started working at Chicago State University as their president. So it's a pity that many are pushing this narrative that the certificate was authenticated. It was never authenticated. In fact, the documents proved he forged the certificate. We now know why Chicago State University attorney mentioned 1997 during the hearing at the lower court. That reference was because he claimed that CSU issued Tinubu a replacement certificate in 1997. But like already said, the fact that Elnora Daniel signed the certificate still proves it is forged. And curiously, all samples of the certificate they delivered to Atiku, no sample of 1997 certificate was included. Anyway, the fact that the CSU attorney later accepted that they do not know where he got the certificate is already an acceptance that they didn't produce the certificate. We will know more about this from the oral deposition. They've appointed two persons to be questioned by Atiku's lawyers. Atiku's lawyers, after going through the documents, they must have more questions to ask them during the oral deposition. Another thing is that a replacement certificate must be exactly the one he was issued in 1979. It doesn't need to be original. They can even watermark it to show that it's a duplicate copy. This is the sample of the certificate that Chicago State University issued in 1979. This is exactly what Tinubu should have submitted to INEC. The fact he's claiming that the school gave it to him in 1997, and with all the evidence, it didn't come from the school. But like already said, the oral deposition will solve the problem, although they've indicated that they will not be able to answer yes or no to the questions. This raises an issue of credibility. The CSU guys still don't want to come out clean. It's either the certificate was produced by them or not. It cannot be in between. Except they want to own the errors on the certificate, which is impossible because of obvious reasons. No one at the school at the time could make such an error. This is the main proof that this certificate didn't come from CSU, and probably the certificate wasn't made in 1997. Obviously, they didn't think about the date. They just typed his name and made other errors, thinking that no one will have time to verify them. The fact that Tinubu didn't submit this certificate to INEC when he ran for governor in Lagos proves that he wasn't in possession of this certificate at the time. Remember what he said in an affidavit that he lost all his documents when the military raided his home in the 90s. So one won't be wrong to say that this certificate was made recently to be filed for the 2023 presidential election. So you can see that they are incompetent even in forgery. If he already got the school's backing that he graduated there, all he needed to do was to forge exact replica of 1979 certificate. If it's the same without errors, no one can say he forged it. You can't prove it. But because of his contempt for due process and his belief that anyone has a price, that with money he will always get his way, they didn't put up a convincing effort. Now they are trying to use false narratives to bamboozle people. It's already late. The world knows his certificate didn't come from CSU. That's why CSU guys don't want to answer yes or no. Why are they not confident in saying yes, that they produced the certificate? That will end the matter. So they didn't authenticate the certificate. In fact, going by what they released, it raised more questions than answers, which hopefully they will answer during the oral deposition. The main question they will answer is if Tinubu requested for his transcript, certificate, and other documents in 1997 to probably file them with INEC for Lagos governorship election. Why didn't CSU issue him an exact replica of 1979 certificate? Because one can't graduate from a school and be parading a certificate that wasn't issued the year he graduated. It doesn't make sense. The same way they reproduced this 1979 sample under subpoena, they should have reproduced one in Tinubu's name. Why didn't they do that in 1997? There are so many inconsistencies. This is simply the result of telling too many lies. At a time, it becomes impossible to patch up. This raises the question also, why did they need to lie in the first place? If one chooses to lie, that means he wants to benefit from something that he never had in the first place. That's why this discovery shouldn't stop here. Whatever statements they make under oath must be investigated to find out why there are so many inconsistencies, which probably was done to cover up. That thing they are covering must be uncovered. Another thing is the same way CSU failed to issue Tinubu an exact replica of 1979 certificate when he made the demand in 1997. That's if he really made it, because evidence on ground proves he probably didn't. It is the same way they gave another certificate to Enahoreba under subpoena. This certificate design was in use at CSU in the early 2000s. You can see this one, it was issued in 2003. Of course, it's quite different from the 1979 design. The logo is different. 5 people signed in 79, while 2 signed in 2003. So what is really going on at the Chicago State University? Either they are genuinely incompetent or they are intentionally doing this to give themselves some leeway in case everything blows up in their face. Let's see some inconsistencies. The admission records they released show that a female was admitted to CSU in 1977. That female was an American citizen. The profile of that person doesn't fit the Bola Tinubu of today. He's male and he has never held an American citizenship. Maybe CSU will throw more light on this issue when they make the oral deposition. The next one is, if Tinubu's certificate was produced by CSU in 1997, why didn't Dr. Cross sign the certificate since she was the president then and not Elnora Daniel? CSU might want to throw more light on this in their oral deposition. They should also explain why the certificate was dated June 22nd, 1979. The one they gave to Enahoreba under subpoena last year was dated June 27th, 1979. Whereas the sample they reproduced for Atiku shows 20th April 1979. What is going on? Which is it? Which one is the correct date? Other things they revealed in this massive release is the age of the person that was admitted to CSU. Tinubu's current year of birth is 1952. On the transcript, year of birth is 1954. The application form reads 1955. Also, on the application form, the gender checkbox is marked male. So, which is it? Can all these be attributed to the same person? Documents used in gaining admission are consistent, but all the documents from CSU are inconsistent. People suddenly made wrong entries instead of transferring exact info from Southwest College. So, what is going on here? There's another document showing government college. No city is attached. Tinubu couldn't have attended Government College Lagos in 1970 because this secondary school wasn't in existence then. You can see the former principals of the secondary school. It was established by Mobolaji Johnson in 1974. So even if he claimed to have done only class 1 at the school before moving to the US, it couldn't have been possible because the school simply didn't exist at the time. Also, Government College Ibadan he claimed in 1999 was debunked. No old boy of the school could identify him at the time. The school embarrassingly cancelled a get-together they planned for him because they found out he was never their student. Going by the records Chicago State University released, it is clear that it is a case of identity theft. CSU should explain in their oral deposition how a different person, different gender, age, and everything could be admitted to their university, and someone with a different age, gender, and others would be the person to graduate from the same university. To get the full identity of the owner of the admission records, Southwest College needs to be brought into the discovery. Though this is beyond the scope of what Atiku is seeking. Atiku is seeking to establish that Tinubu forged his certificate, which going by the release proves he forged it. Let's take a look. The certificate is submitted to INEC has this with honors written in the middle. No other certificate sample released by CSU has this. Then the impossible signature of Elnora Daniels. It's like going back to yesterday, it never happened. There's also the wrong date. So it will be interesting to hear their answers. When the deposition is made public, part of the reason they might never want to answer yes or no whether they issued Tinubu the certificate is submitted to INEC is because of two things. If they say yes, it will expose them to fraud and possible certificate racketeering. Apart from all the errors in the certificate itself, Tinubu's date of birth is different from the records they have. Also, his nationality is different. And they keep saying he graduated from the school. If he really did, why did CSU issue him a wrong certificate? Not once, but twice, counting the one they gave Enahoreba. So they maintain he graduated while their records show a different person. Did they really issue him the certificate he submitted to INEC? Let them answer this question in their oral deposition. If they answer no, that they didn't produce the certificate, it raises the question why is Tinubu in possession of a certificate that the school didn't issue him? They must issue him the correct one if they insist and maintain that he graduated from the university. Otherwise, he can sue them. Also, if they are sued, it might lead to all sorts of revelations. That's if he can sue them. So in essence, yes or no answer will open up a can of worms, which they obviously don't want. They did it this way without accepting any blame, at the same time without saying it explicitly. It is clear that Tinubu forged the certificate. Let's see how they will answer questions in their oral deposition. We will also see how the Supreme Court in Nigeria will decide when Atiku submits the evidence to them. Thanks for watching.